Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Aaron, and he is the founder of Seron Security and the creator of Travis. To start us off, could you share a little bit about yourself, Aaron, and about the company?
Sure. I'm Aaron Birnbaum. I am the founder of Seron Security and co-founder of that, which is Travis. I've been in the security space for a number of years. I actually had a company before this and we got attacked. Luckily, they were unable to exfiltrate any data, but getting the call in the morning, hey, the site's down, and I know the site's not down because I architected it and hopefully I did it right, was a very disturbing experience that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And I really wanted to learn how it was done, why it was done, and make sure it never happened again. And that kind of brought me from a somewhat tech background to cybersecurity. A couple of years ago, I hooked up with a brilliant developer who had a very cool idea, and we brought that to market as Travis. Been going on about 3 years now, and constantly trying to improve it, make it better. And I think it's pretty cool. But if anybody wants to try it out, let me know. Happy to set anybody up with an account.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about Travis and what it actually does for companies?
Sure. Basically, Travis, the name comes from Technical Recon Vulnerability Scanner, so TRVS, with AI. And AI isn't a bolt on for us. It's something that we just about started with very early. 3 years ago, AI started blowing up, and we had an idea of just having a database, and we evolved into having our own AI. And when I say having our own AI, I don't mean having an account with ChatGPT. I mean, literally having our own graphics cards, having our own processing. We control all the data. Primarily what Travis functions as is a vulnerability scanner. So it goes out, it looks at the attack surface from an attacker's point of view. Most security tools are built from a defensive posture to keep people out. We actually built Travis as an attacker to get in, because only then can you really understand where your weak spots are so you can fix them. So it is primarily a blue team tool. The idea is find these areas, these vulnerabilities, and then we give you advice using the AI as well. We give you advice on not just you have a vulnerability, thanks, but you have a vulnerability. Here's why it's a vulnerability. Here's some more information on why it's a vulnerability and some links to some other resources. And then here's how you would remediate the vulnerability, including and up to actually writing code that you could use, replace in your current code stack, and it would function correctly and alleviate the vulnerability. A lot of our focus recently has been in enhancing what we're doing, specifically because AI has become such an enormous part of the world. Travis can actually scan for unintentionally exposed MCP servers, model context protocol. If you're into AI, you probably say, well, yeah, they have to be exposed, but the internal ones don't have to be exposed, and we're able to find those. We're also able to find open API or AI endpoints. So if you are running your own AI, then you should definitely secure it. It's a huge problem. We're trying to help companies identify those vulnerabilities. We also do some really cool stuff. We're pulling secrets out of JavaScript. We're pulling API keys out. We have a dark web component, which we are able to look up InfoStealer logins or InfoStealer log files. So if your company is riverside.com, if we find anybody with domain of riverside.com, if it's Aaron at Riverside and we're able to find that in InfoStealer logs, we're going to let you know. We're also doing some brand protection stuff. So you could actually issue a takedown notice if somebody's typo squatting or trying to do an attack by mimicking your website or misspelling of your website. We put all that into it. And then we also do a lot of external enrichment so that there aren't a lot of false positives. Nobody likes false positives. And so we do a lot of external enrichment to minimize that. I'm not going to say that we have zero, like some organizations will, but we have a very low incidence, and we have a method in place for you to just say, hey, this is a false positive, and you won't see it again, which I happen to think is very cool. One of the key points of the AI that we've been able to use after having gathered data for 3 years is we generate a report, and it's not a 46-page report that no one's ever going to read. It's generally 8 to 10 pages. It's very high level, and it gives you a very clear understanding of what's my security posture look like? Where are the things that I need to fix as soon as possible? And where are some of the things that if I have time, and no one ever does, I'll get to fixing them. And those are created in that report. It's the first page you see. It's an executive summary. These are the big things you need to address. And again, we show you how to fix them, which I haven't seen another solution do very well. I've seen a couple try it, but this is what we do. I know there's a lot of scanning tools in the space, and I'd like to think if we didn't have some secret sauce that we wouldn't be in it because it is very competitive. One of the things that we do to differentiate ourselves as well is we built Travis differently so it gives us different results and it finds things that no other solutions find is we don't do per asset pricing. You pay a price. If you have one user, pay the same price. If you have 50 users, pay the same price. If you scan one domain, pay the same price. If you scan 10 domains, pay the same price within reason. It never made sense to me to sell part of access to a product. So we sell, you want to have 50 people on the team? Great. And you can set role-based access control. So some people can only see this and some people can only see that. In the future, we want to have project management added to it. But basically right now we're, working with clients to show them where their vulnerabilities are, help them remediate them. And there's been a lot of advanced discussions, I'll say, in
Mhm.
GRC. And a lot of GRC frameworks have a requirement for either a pen test or a vulnerability scan. And almost every framework that I have experienced has a continuous monitoring component. And I don't see that being implemented. Unless you define continuous as once a year, which I guess you can set the frequency on how often you want your attack surface scanned. And attack surface is more than just website. It's APIs. It's, potentially AIs. It's web applications. It's VPN endpoints. It's FTP endpoints. So it's anything that an attacker could use to get themselves inside your network. We're going to show it to you, and we're going to basically tell you how to fix it.
Awesome. But Travis really seems like the future of the industry, it seems like. It has so many features, and you can really tell that it's much different than any other scanning tool used by other cybersecurity companies. Now, how does one come up with the idea to add all these features to Travis and make it Travis, Travis in of itself?
It is actually a result of both the architecture and a problem. And I'll summarize it with this. We built Travis the core is the scanner. And then each module can be bolted on. So if you don't want to run a module, you don't have to run a module. If you don't want to run for whatever reason, you think it's going to be too noisy, you think it's going to cause problems, you don't have to run it. Every module is on and off. The great thing about that is we can throw modules on all day long, but we got to a point where we're like, all right, we have way too many modules, like we did. And so we kind of said, all right, let's build ourselves a process. How do we determine if a module is going to be offered? And primarily it's listening to our customers. And it's a crazy idea, but our customers tell us what they want. And a lot of the feedback that we get goes into development. So if a client says, for example, I have a WordPress site. I know WordPress has had some history of having some security challenges. Can you build me a component that will look at any WordPress site and check the plugins, make sure they're up to date, check the template and all that kind of stuff? And so we did, but we went further. So now we have that kind of functionality for any CMS. So
Mhm.
Drupal, not anyone, excuse me. Drupal, Joomla, WordPress, Ghost, and one or two others. And, we're constantly adding to that. We added, remote drives. I'm trying to think of the correct term, but basically AWS buckets, Azure repositories, Google Cloud storage. A lot of organizations will go and they'll put their data there and they will not secure it. And
Mhm.
it's usually not intentional. Actually, I think it's never intentional, but invariably it happens. And so we're going to scan, we're going to look for specific words, we're going to look for stuff. And not only are we going to say, hey, you have 11,000 records that are exposed, but we're going to give you a pretty good idea of how many of those you really need to look at. Because of the
Mhm.
11,000 records, maybe 10 or 20 have information you don't want public. And you don't want any of it public, but these are the ones you want to focus on as soon as possible. And obviously,
Mhm.
you want to lock down all of your data, but these are the ones that could be bad, I guess the technical term is.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about your ideal customer and the customers that are seeing a lot of success using Travis.
It's interesting because we have a lot of different types of customers, which is a good thing, I guess. And we have sole practitioners, people that are doing bug bounty hunting, or security researchers that are playing around. They'll use the tool and they'll either, gather information and then maybe sometimes they'll take it to the next level, but you can use Travis as a bug bounty tool. We do it on the weekends kind of thing. And we invariably find one or two. Sometimes they're not well received, but invariably we will find something. And we found exposed databases. We found so many things that I wish I could talk about, but I can't because of vulnerability disclosure rules. But we found large healthcare exposed databases. We were able to pull down a sample of 10 just to prove we could do it. But we didn't do it through Travis. Travis is not an attack platform. You can't have a payload. It's intentionally built to minimize red team use. But if you can identify the vulnerability, then you can go to another tool or to your own tool set and start poking around and finding out what you want to get or what you need to get. We have, medium-sized companies. We have one large enterprise and proof of concept. We have healthcare, we have fintech, and we've gotten a lot of interest from managed service providers and managed security service providers because they're getting it from their people. They're like, hey, I want to know that their customers are asking them, am I safe? You guys have remote management, and hopefully you have a SOC or some kind of alerting, but I'd much rather have a scan, and I don't have $50,000 for a good quality pen test. We do not say that we are a automated pen test solution. However, we do have pen testers, and we have a company that does pen testing that uses Travis, and they love it because it saves them a lot of time. The value of a pen test is the interpretation of the data. It's not the aggregation. You're not paying somebody to sit there and run scans. You're paying somebody to look at that scan data and say, okay, this could be an attack path, or this is a common exploit that you need to lock down. And that's where the real value is. And so they can spend their time doing what they're skilled at doing. Not that automated pen tests are bad. I just think that a human today
Mhm.
is still better than an AI or an automated pen test. But we have different clients, different size clients, different industries, people that, want to take a proactive stance on making sure that their systems are secure, that their data is safe. And that could be, a small law practice, or that could be the insurance company. So we're open to everybody, and we try to, as I mentioned, we don't price by the asset. So if you're a bigger company, you may or may not have a bigger bill, believe it or not. We try to make it as available to everyone. We do standard right off the rip. We do 20% off if you're a nonprofit, if you're a religious organization, if you're, trying to help people out. We want to make sure that you don't get wrecked because you're doing something good. So we want to return the favor. And if you're a startup, we know what being a startup is like, and we
Mhm.
definitely encourage you to get a security scan as early as possible.
Mm.
So we want to make it available to everybody. So our plan, we have plans that are, a couple $100 up to, well, a lot. So, but, most of the companies that buy our product are paying about 60 to 70% of what they were paying with a prior product that's a legacy
Mm.
product, for
Mhm.
better terms, I guess you would say. So you're getting the best things, and you're getting a variety of tools that should help you. And again, we try to minimize false positives. We try to give you a high level report because so many security professionals, they just don't have the time, and they definitely don't have the time to chase false positives, but they don't have time to read a 50-page report. And they want
Mhm.
to know at a glance, you can log into your dashboard, and right at the top, it's going to show you, do I have any CVEs? If I do, how many are in the process of being remediated? And is there any dark web credentials on my company? Are they out there? Because those are usually the biggest threat indicators. If someone's selling your email list and passwords online, you're going to be a target. So we try to communicate with them as best we can. And we're constantly talking to our clients and saying, what do you like? What would you like? Because invariably, if they say, well, I'd like, for example, the WordPress thing, great. A lot of other people like it. Now they're very happy that we have it. And somebody called me the other day and he goes, how long have you had this? I'm like, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And he's like, oh my gosh, I really wish I had known about this. I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. I should have been communicating it better with you. But invariably, somebody's going to give us an idea and other people are going to like it. So we're going to go with that.
Awesome. That's just awesome. Now, kind of what are the biggest shifts or trends that you're seeing in your space right now?
I think, the default answer is AI, but I really do think is a big game changer because with the internet, the cost of doing a scam or stealing from someone went way, way down, dramatically down. Not just Nigerian scams, catfishing, things like that. I mean, you blast out a million emails and it costs you $1 maybe, if that. And if you get one or two people, you're set. With AI, you can take that kind of massive approach, but you could craft a very effective phishing email, or you could build a person in AI and send a video message. So the AI is a tool, like any tool. If you have a hammer, you could build a house and keep someone safe, or you could take that hammer and really hurt somebody with it if you swung it at them. It is a tool. It can be used for good and it can also be used for not good. And
Mhm,
I wrote an article the other day and we used to have 0 days, which is a vulnerability that hasn't really been publicized, and it's right before it comes out, people identify it as day one. So it used to be 0 days, and I wrote an article about 0 minutes. We're going to have
mhm,
0 minute vulnerabilities because they're continuously using it. The people that are using it are smart. They're motivated one way or another, either financially or under duress, but they're coming out with
mhm,
incredible stuff.
mhm,
They're also coming out with some incredible stuff in the medical world and healthcare, new medicines, new treatments, and things like that, which I think is wonderful. But you definitely want to make sure that you're protecting whatever you have. I think that the ability to create malware and to distribute malware very efficiently, much more effectively than has been done in the past, is an enormous threat. It's no longer, okay, the chief information officer sent out an email, but it wasn't, go buy me Apple gift cards kind of thing.
mhm,
And again, I'm not trying to pick on people that have fallen for those scams because they're pretty sophisticated. And now,
mhm,
I mean, there was I want to say 20 or $40 million wire sent by a company because they sat in a meeting with what they thought was their CFO, and it wasn't their
mhm.
CFO, and they wired that money. So, and they're not getting it back. I don't know what cyber insurance covers these days or not, but I would much rather just try to minimize my attack surface and, put some good security awareness training and programs in place to try to protect my organization. And it's hard. And it's getting, as the tools evolve, it's definitely getting harder and more difficult for people.
Now, I always ask this question, is AI more of a net positive or a net negative in the space?
I don't know, actually. I'd like to say I used to describe, not me, but a lot of people used to describe security as whack a mole. Oh, we have a
Mhm,
vulnerability that pops up. Woo! Okay. So we get our hammer and we smash it down. We fix it. We patch it. We let everybody know about it. But as soon as we do that, three more pop up and we got to do the same thing all over and over again. It's similar now. The attacks are more sophisticated and the frequency is greater. There's instead of one remote code execution vulnerability, now there's 70. So if I had to pick, I would say net negative, but it also allows us to build tools like Travis that can identify these vulnerabilities and remediate them before they become threats. The next chapter, if you will, and I've seen some very cool technology built. It will analyze the attack, it will stop the attack, it will patch or fix the attack, and then it will let you know about it and or put a ticket in. That would be an ideal world. It's something we'd love to do, and we do have some plans along those lines. But the problem is the hallucinations in AI and errors. And if you don't have a person doing it, you might make yourself even more vulnerable, or the system might make you even more vulnerable by
mhm.
doing that. As the AIs evolve and trust becomes greater, I think you're going to see you'll still see a lot of attacks, but I think you're going to see much more cool tech for defending. But right now, I got to say the bad guys are probably winning.
And that's unfortunate. You know what I mean? The more we have people like you know, creating these AI applications like Travis to defend, right, the small businesses, the mid-sized businesses, the enterprise businesses, I think eventually we will win. Now, talking about Seron Security, what are some of the toughest challenges that you've had in the space from the start to all the way up to now in 2026?
People still don't take security seriously. 10 years ago, they didn't take it seriously. Now, you would think they would take it a lot more seriously. And some people do. I'm not trying to generalize, but small, medium sized businesses don't get it. Until they've been attacked, they don't get it. They're not willing to spend the money. It's not going to happen to me. I'm not a target. What do I have? What's my data worth? It's not worth the cost. And usually it's not a gigantic cost. A lot of times I'll work with professional services clients like attorneys or accountants, and they have a very profitable long-term business that relies on their reputation. And if an organization like that gets breached, they're required to report it. People are going to know, and you tell your lawyer and your accountant things you probably don't tell your husband or your spouse or whoever. You don't tell anyone. And if that information gets out and gets exposed, I personally can say I would leave that provider. And I think a lot of people do leave their providers when that happens. But the problem isn't, okay, we had a breach. The problem is your reputational damage, which you can never recover from. If a lot of people value their money highly over almost anything, hopefully except their family. And
Mhm,
if you're controlling my money and you're aware of where I have my money, and then you get breached and everybody knows, A, I'm going to blame you, but B, I'm done with you. And
mhm,
whether it's a law firm or accountancy, whatever it may be, it is of significant value. So I think the biggest challenge that I face is explaining to people why they should put some money, and I'm not talking about millions of dollars. We don't charge six figures unless you're giant. It's not a huge amount of money. Believe it or not, the larger enterprises tend to be more receptive than the smaller
mhm,
mid-size, even though it's more expensive because they can do the risk calculation better. It's people just, business decision makers tend not to see the worst case scenario. And I had the worst case, well, not the worst case scenario. I had a very bad scenario because there's definitely people that got, 3, 4 generations of family businesses have closed because they
mhm,
got attacked. And it's horrible. And all the people that are affiliated with that and all the people in the community that suffer as a result of that. It's tragic and it's cruel. And, I'm a little older than you, but when I was growing up, hackers were pranksters and,
mhm,
they do silly stuff and stupid stuff and maybe change your grade from a B to an A or a C to a A or a D to a B. But it wasn't, no one was hurting anybody. And for
mhm,
me to watch hospitals and schools get attacked, it just kind of distresses me. A lot of people are sensitive about the hacker label and have been railing against it. But, for better or for worse, and pretty much for worse, if you do something illegal, you're a criminal. If you do it on a computer, you're still a criminal. If
mhm,
you mess around and play around and tinker with stuff and try to do cool stuff, you're a hacker. A hacker is not a criminal by default. And a lot of people really resent when they substitute the word hacker for criminal.
mhm,
But again, hackers used to be pranksters. That's what we used to do. And, I see people dying as a result of, attacks on hospitals. I live in New Hampshire. There was a hospital here that got so badly locked out of their own systems that they had two people on the same floor with the same first name and same last name that were both unconscious, and they couldn't administer medication because they didn't know if one of them was allergic to something. And I know there have been instances where, the hospitals has been, crypto malware has taken it down. So instead of going to the hospital 5 minutes away, we got to go to the hospital 45 minutes away and the patient doesn't make it. You're literally killing people. And I get it. You think you're doing it for the money because you think these, businesses all have millions and billions of dollars, and some do, some don't. Some spend it wisely, some don't. I wish people would be more sensitive to the fact that anyone can get hit at any time. And if you talk to people that do penetration testing, if you talk to people that do ethical hacking, they will tell you they always get it, always get it. So a dedicated attacker, whether it's a criminal or hopefully not, will get in. And if you don't have a good defense, you're just making it easier. The thing I like about criminals, that sounds really weird to say, but the thing I like about criminals is that they're lazy, right? So if you put up just some basic defenses, if you have a firewall, if you have a VPN, if you do multi-factor authentication, if you use complex passwords, they may try to hit you, but then they're like, this is too much work. I'm just going to go to the next one. I'm just going to go to the next IP address. I'm going to continue whatever I'm doing. I'm going to run a scan. As soon as I find somebody that isn't protected, I'm going to go for it. So but you don't have to have every bell and every whistle and biometric eye scans to use, your computer. You just have to have a security mentality and a basic defense. But when companies are just like, yeah, I'm not really interested in it, and they're never going to hit me.
mhm,
The best story I have to tell about that is, you think it's never going to happen to you. There was a veterinary practice that did emergency admittance for pets. So if it's 3 in the morning, your puppy dog comes in with a broken leg, there's not a lot of places you can take it to. You have to go to like an emergency vet. Well, these guys essentially, they jammed their phones with IP traffic because they were VoIP phones. So no one could call and no one could get an outside line. But the way they had their network configured, they basically denied service to all of their electronic devices and aspects. So they couldn't do tests. They couldn't, look up things. They couldn't get information from anywhere else. I mean, it's emergency vet. You don't think you're a target? Would you think an emergency vet would be? I mean, what's the end game here? You're going to kill animals? But they did it. And they did it usually for the money. I don't think there's, anti-PETA people out there that are trying to cause trauma to, our dogs and cats and lizards or whatever we have as pets, but they did it because it was easy, more than likely. I imagine it was a target attack because they did try to get some money out of them. But I remember bringing my dog in because she ate a whole bottle of Advil, and that was not funny either. But
Yeah.
I went there and they're like, okay, and they started writing things down on paper, and I'm like, guess if a computer's right over there, why? Oh, we have a little problem. Computer's down, da, 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 da. So I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. And then they said, yeah, we'll probably call you from a cell phone in a little bit if there's any change, better or worse. I'm like, okay, gotta ask, why are you gonna call me from a cell phone? Because our phones don't work either. And I'm like, okay, well, I know what's going on here. Here's my business card. I'm happy to help you guys because I want my dog to have good care. But they're like, okay, yeah. And they never did. And they were down for like a week and a half. And I don't know what that
Insane.
cost them. I don't know what reputational damage it did, but I can't think, I can't think it was a good thing. You
Couldn't be
know,
too pretty.
no, I wasn't, before I got into this, my last business was basically healthcare focused. And I like it because you help people and you can make a living. And
Mhm.
cybersecurity is a lot like healthcare in that aspect. I want to help people. I want to help organizations. I do have to eat, so I do have to charge, but I don't have to charge, $4,000 an hour or whatever, the most insane rate you've heard is. But I went to a bunch of different schools. I have a bunch of certificates. I generally, most of the time, know what I'm talking about. And if I don't, I'm not afraid to say, I'm sorry, I don't know that. But I could find somebody who does. I have a great network. I have a lot of people that, I refer business to them. They refer business to me. And, you do a good job and those relationships stick around. You don't do a good job and those relationships don't stick around, or I don't
Mhm.
send business to them. But it's an issue of this one president of a company that I had gone to help looks at me. He's like, what are you here for? And I explained it to him and he goes, well, why am I paying all this money? I'm like, so you can be safe. And he goes, is this a cost of doing business now? And I said, yes. And everybody else in the room said, yes, because it
Mhm.
is. And if that means you need to raise your prices by a nickel a widget, then you have to raise your prices by a nickel a widget because the option B is not pleasant. And, we live in a litigious society. People will sue for anything and everything. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, deed protection isn't going to cut it for a lot of people, especially in a big, I'm trying to remember what the latest breach was because they all kind of blur after a while, but I want to say it was like 40 million emails, addresses, phone numbers from somebody. And I guarantee you there's lawyers already, on the case as it is. Not that that's
Yep.
bad. We should be holding these companies accountable, but
Mhm.
it's hard. And the other thing that's hard is I have literally had a discussion with a legal professional who told me that they are advising their clients not to do assessments unless they have
Mhm.
time and budget to fix them. Because if you do an assessment and you get a list of 50 things that are wrong and then you get breached, that's going to go into a court of law and they're going to go, so do you think your system was secure? Yes, we do. We take every step to make sure it's secure. Really? Did you have an assessment done on June 23rd, 2020? Yeah, I guess so. Yes. And did you know that there's a list of 50 things that needed to be fixed? Well,
Mhm.
yes. And you didn't fix them. You only fixed 47 of them. So you knew there were 3 vulnerabilities. That's what's going to happen. So it's a weird time and I understand
Mhm.
it. And it's a lot of, CYA. It's a lot like insurance. You hope you're never going to have to use it. You hope you're never going to have
Mhm.
to worry about an attack, but It's why people have disaster recovery plans, business continuity. It's if it happens, we need to be prepared for it. And one of my favorite stories is an organization that they did everything right. They had tabletop exercises. They had, fake incidents, if you will. They walked through everything. They modified their playbooks. They updated everything, and they stored their response plan online. So when their system was all locked, they couldn't even get to it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, that a lot of these companies that want to skimp out on cybersecurity, they do need to be held accountable, especially for the people, the customers that they are servicing. We expect as connoisseurs for our data to be protected, as well as it is terrible that a lot of these smaller businesses, especially, we don't see, I call it like an invisible ROI on cybersecurity.
Mhm.
Because if you skimp out on it, or you think that it's just an unnecessary bill that you have to pay every month or whatnot, and you do get hit, the damage on your reputation, and then how long you're offline and how much money you're going to lose is so much to if the point if you were to go and you were like, okay, cybersecurity is our number one priority, we want to make sure that we are never offline. And if we are offline, it's maybe an hour or two, not a week. The ROI is there. You're going to benefit 1,000 times more than trying to skimp out and save as much money on that part. Now, Aaron, what are kind of some of the things that you are doing to get that value and that message across to your prospects and your clients that you want to do business with? And what advice would you give to someone that wants to kind of get to your position?
A couple questions there. One of the other challenges that I think a lot of businesses face is there are a lot of cybersecurity companies selling solutions. Some are good product, ethical salespeople doing it great. Don't. And they're either promising the world or zero false positives or 100% guarantee. Whenever I see an absolute like that, I run because I know it's not true. And if that's what you need to use to get your foot in the door, that's kind of crazy. So that's frustrating to me. If I go to a trade show and I go and I walk the floor or a conference or whatever it is, and I'm walking around the trade show floor and there's 60 booths and 40 of them are EDR, MDR, and XDR. I pop in, I go, what do you guys do different? Well, we have great customer service. We have a great product. Okay, well,
Mhm.
you can't compete with someone with a $2 billion marketing budget. So nice knowing you. If you don't have a special sauce, I'm sorry, but I don't think you're going to belong for this world. I just don't see it. So you have an enormous amount of groups, and you have everyone targets the CISO. So the CISO
Mhm.
just gets blown up. Every time I see somebody on LinkedIn, I got a new position, they've been there 6 months because otherwise they're just going to get blown up. Hey, I see you just moved to this new role. And hey, have you considered our solution? Because it's great. We don't know what you're using now, but well, maybe you should find out. What we try to do is, a lot of it is personal network, is people that we know in different positions. Everybody in my organization is pretty active. We just try to reach out and say, hey, just take a look. Tell us what you think. And if it's something that you can benefit from, great. If not, and if you don't like it, tell us why, because we could change it and we can fix it. Having a discussion, it has to be done in a way, from my perspective, that isn't a salesy kind of ABC, always be closing kind of mentality.
Mhm.
Glengarry Glen Ross, for those of you who don't get the reference. But you want to provide value. You want to say, hey, look, I know what you're doing. I know what you're going through. I've been in your shoes. You don't have time. You don't have budget. For anybody who's a little nervous or shy that's in cybersecurity, next time you're at a social event, just walk up to someone and go, hey, don't you hate it that you have way too much budget and so many staff, you just don't know what to do with them? And they will
Mhm.
laugh and you will laugh and you will be friends because it's the same everywhere. I've never met an organization where I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough people. I don't have enough resources, and I'm expected to do everything. And a lot of times, whoever that individual is, they're saying to their superiors or to the C level or to the board, we're not secure. We need to take steps to be secure, and the board won't authorize it, or whoever will not give them the budget or the resources. And then when they get hit, that person becomes a scapegoat. And I've seen it more times, than I care to mention. And I'm sure other people have similar experiences. I think that if you're selling anything, you need to do your research. You need to understand, is this person a decision maker? And Are they someone that is going to either use the solution, and or are they someone that has the ability to allocate budget for it? Because otherwise you're wasting a lot of people's time, and there's a lot of bad salespeople out there. I hate to say it, but there really are. And
There is, yeah.
old techniques from the Xerox days don't work anymore,
Mm-mm.
but spamming a million people with email doesn't work anymore. Spamming a million people on LinkedIn doesn't work anymore. I've gotten to the point when I reach out to people on LinkedIn that I don't know, I put in the top, not a sale. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to meet you and talk to you. And that's about it.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about this because I think exactly this A to B sales approach, it doesn't work at all. A conversation will bring you a lot further than going and trying to solicit someone right off the bat, and making connections. I think that when you are even trying to, I would say, prospect, right, for clients for your service, you shouldn't be thinking, okay, how can I get this person to give me time? No, you are looking to how can I give this person value so they want to give me some of their time. So I
Absolutely.
seem like I can maybe fix their solution. So I loved how that's your approach to it. Now, what is the company currently doing to grow with that system, and what does effective client acquisition look like for you guys today?
We have a bunch of different marketing methods. I mean, the traditional stuff, pay per click, advertising, sponsorships, things like that. We do a lot of content development. Our blog on our site is like 700 pages of really cool, relevant, interesting content, not generated by AI. We have people that
Uh-huh.
actually write. I know it's a foreign concept, but we have people actually write real, relevant, good content based on what's going on. If
Hmm.
there's a big breach, we talk about it. If there's an attack vector that we're seeing a lot of, we talk about it. And we try to provide value, just like you said. In terms of growing, a lot of what we're trying to do is, we have a handful of companies that we work with. We call them design partners. And basically, we give them a reduced rate and they give us feedback. And they say, hey, we don't like this, or hey, have you guys thought about doing this? The nice thing about that is those partners have been our best evangelists because they get exactly what they want and they can't help talking to their friends and to their peers and to their coworkers about, hey, these guys did this for me, in 2 weeks. And the last company we had couldn't do it in 6 months, which is why we went with them. I think that I think it's important to have a good product. There's a quote I use. You usually can only sell a poop sandwich once. So you actually have to have something there. You got to have meat in your sandwich. You can't just have
Yeah.
poop. So if you're going to sell a product, the product should be good and you should believe in it.
Hmm.
And you shouldn't think,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to get this old lady to buy a used car. You should think, I'm going to help this company stay in business. Like that should be your
Yeah.
mentality. I'm
Hmm.
going to help them, and yes, I am going to make some money as a
Hmm.
salesperson or as a member of the team or whatever it may be, but I'm not doing it. If you're doing it for money, there's other ways to make money. If you're doing it because you believe in the product, it absolutely comes through. Because I've had people, they're kind of wishy-washy and, hey, we got a really good thing and you should check it out. And they're just not enthusiastic. But if you believe, if you drink the Kool-Aid, if you really
Hmm.
believe in the product, it's not a sale. It's a, hey, I want to help you. And I think I can help you by showing you this tool. And if this tool can help you be more secure and keep your business solid, I'm going to feel great. You're going to feel great. A lot of our, discussions have gone like that. Hey, what are you guys doing? See are you in it? Now we can go, hey, how's your AI security? And they go, we don't have any. We're like, yeah, that's a problem. How would you like some? And as well as all the other tools that we have. Having a good product is a very key first step.
Hmm.
You'd be surprised. I mean, I've talked to salespeople in every industry that they just don't believe in it. They're just doing it for the paycheck or whatever. And the people that, I don't know why that guy's so successful. He's so lucky. He just, landed on that $50,000 deal. He didn't land on
Hmm.
it. He went to chase it because he wants to be successful, and or he or she wants to do good things. And it doesn't
Hmm.
matter what you're selling. Is there a benefit? If there's no benefit, if you can't define the benefit of what you're selling, maybe you better look at an alternative career or go work for a different organization. And I know that sounds kind of like, well, duh, but a lot of people don't think about that. I mean, I get it. There's tens of thousands of people being unemployed every day. And I
Hmm.
think that is not a good thing, but
Hmm.
it is what it is. People are going to do what they have to do to keep their job or to feed their family. I get it. But if you believe in what you're doing, and even if you have to convince yourself you believe in what you're doing and you're doing something good, I think you're going to enjoy your job more. I think you'll be more successful. And I think people are going to appreciate it more. I get people who reach out to me on LinkedIn, and sometimes it's like a student or someone changing careers. And they always, not always, a lot of the times they'll say, what should I do? How did you get into this?
Mhm.
And I say, okay, first of all, how I got into it, you do not want to go my route. Trust me. You do not want to go my route. It was not a good way to go. And then there's the discussion is, should I learn coding or should I not learn coding? But I always say to them, I say, tell me about your lab. That used to be my interview question. Tell me about your lab. That's it. If they say, I don't know what you're talking about, we're done. Or when they ask for advice, I say, first thing you need to do is go on GitHub, look up something you're interested in, download a repository, play around with it, have a lab, have something you can tinker with, because there's so many different things you can do in security that I want to get into cybersecurity. Okay, well, what? Do you want to be a GRC and do assessments? Okay. You want to be a red teamer, pen tester? That's the sexy thing. Okay, I want to do that. It's not easy. None of it's easy. But if you don't have that passion and you don't have that drive, I mean, like I have four computers here in my room right now, and I have different things running on different machines in different environments. I'm constantly playing and poking and tweaking and causing havoc in my hair, but I get into it. Like I get off on that. I think that's really cool when I say, oh, wow, hey, I downloaded this and then I tried it. Oh, okay. How did they do that? And then I start poking around and then I learn or I break something and I have to fix it. And so that's how I learn. I think you need to be naturally curious, but I always say, look, tell me about your lab. And if you don't have one, I'm saying, okay, go build a lab. And if they don't know what that is, I'll explain it to them. And then I
Yeah.
say, reach back out to me in 3 months. Tell me what you're doing. Because I do know a lot of people and I like to help people. And if I can make an introduction, I'm happy to do it. I have a good network. I make it a point to communicate with my network often and to try to provide value to them as much as I can and make introductions that are going to help them and both sides of the equation. And again, I think it goes back to that. I like to help people. And if I can make a living doing it, then that's great. But if you're going to sell and if you're going to market, if you're going to do product development, you have to believe in the product and you have to be able to find the benefit clearly. Because if you can't sell it. I mean, you could read the script and blah, 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 but at the end of the day, I don't do scripts. If I'm really nervous, I'll give myself an outline with like 5 or 6 points, and that's about it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, I'll go off on tangents, and it'll probably take an hour and a half instead of 20 minutes, but it's real. I'm not
Mhm.
AI generated. I don't know how to do the test or anything anymore, but whatever. This is me. I'm not precisely disciplined to deliver the message. I'm just talking. We're just having a discussion and we're talking about it. But I hope you could tell that this is really me. This is who I am. This is
Yeah.
what I am. And I talk to
Yeah.
people when I start a relationship with people. I say, listen, sometimes I'm very blunt because I think it
Mhm.
saves a lot of time. Because if you
Mhm.
and I can do business, great. If we can't, that's cool too. We can still hang out and drink a beer or have a cup of coffee or a Coke or whatever sometime. That's fine. We're just not going to do business. But everybody's busy. Everybody has a million things going on. And maybe it's just everybody in cyber is overwhelmed because there's so much going on. But I've had people go, cool, because if it doesn't look, it's like if you are a person and you go out and you try to meet a person to be your eventual spouse,
Mhm.
I have to be very careful the way I say that eventually you're going to run into someone, well, more than likely you're going to run into someone, at least one or two or three or 26, that you're going to be like, look, just, this isn't working for whatever
Mhm.
reason, or I'm not even going to ask this person out for a second date or whatever, because it's just not working. And you can spend time and think that, you're sparing feelings. I, I'm afraid to say this in case it comes back to bite me in the butt, but most of my personal relationships, I'm still friendly with people that I've dated, but we both kind of knew it wasn't going to work out. It wasn't them. It was me. I'll admit it. But I've been
Mhm.
married for almost 25 years and I enjoy my wife. She's a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Aaron, I love a lot of things you said. I think that when you look at like the best, companies that do so well in sales, I think that you look at their product and you say, okay, their product actually solves a problem.
Yes.
Their product covers a lot of people's pain points. And the reason why they're so successful is that their sales rep have so much conviction. Conviction takes you so far. You can throw a guy in that's have, almost zero sales experience. But if he has the most conviction that his product will work for you,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
gonna see that and you're gonna be like, you know what? Maybe I might give this guy a shot. You know what I mean? This guy is so convinced, you know what I mean? If the offer's right, I'm gonna give him a shot. I love, you know what I mean, some of the points that you were touching are kind of around that, and around sales and good sales and stuff like that. Now, looking ahead, you know what I mean, 2026, it's March. We're almost at the end of quarter one. You know what I mean? It's just kind of been flying past us. What are some of like the top priorities for the next 12 months, both for your company and the industry you serve, when it comes to growth or, you know what I mean, just goals for the company?
I'd like to see, this is going to sound kind of negative, but I'd really like to see some consolidation or some shakeout. We don't need 600 companies. We just don't. I think that hopefully the ones that have the best product and have the best team are going to survive. And the ones that don't will either be acquired or merged or sold or something, because it's so much overload that everyone suffers as a result. If you have 10 people and they want to meet you, that's doable. If you have 1,000 people and they want to meet you, it's just not realistic. So I'd like to see some consolidation. I'd like to see a little of the hype kind of die down a little bit. I mean, I'm an AI fan. Don't get me wrong. I'm a believer. I drank the Kool-Aid. I use it a lot, but I don't let it write for me. I'll let it research, but I won't let it write for me because that's my personal choice. Some people will have every single thing they do just generated by AI. My position is, if it's my voice, it's my voice. It's got to be me. So I'd like to see a little people go, okay, yeah, we get it. AI, it's everywhere. We get it. Okay. It reminds me a lot of the blockchain phenomenon, where we've got a new electric toaster and it's got blockchain. It was just everybody was throwing blockchain on it because that's what they thought investors wanted. And here we are today with how much blockchain? I mean, other than cryptocurrency.
Mhm.
And there are great use cases for distributed ledger technology. I absolutely think so, but not in everything. And now we have our product and now we have AI. So we're 100 times better without any
Mhm.
kind of connotation. I also don't like
Yeah.
the self-proclaimed AI experts, because I know people that have been actually studying AI. They went to school for it. They've been doing research in it for 10, 15 years. They're an AI expert. You just discovered AI 2 years ago, 3 years
Mhm.
ago, maybe. If you were cutting edge, you don't say you're an expert, because you're not.
Yeah.
Say
Yeah.
you're a practitioner.
Uh,
And it's not like, well, if you're 5 years or 10 years, then you could say you're an expert. No, if you're an expert, you shouldn't need to tell people you're an expert. Personal thing. I'd like to see the industry as a whole kind of come together around some standards related to AI. I know there's OWASP AI, there's a NIST AI document, and I think that that's great, because I think a lot of people go through the same cycle. A lot of businesses go through the cycle. The cycle is this: someone somehow tells someone else that you should be doing AI. Don't know what that means, but you should be doing it. And eventually someone in an organization, regardless of the size, is going to say, all right, Johnson, go find out about AI and how we can use it. And Johnson
mhm.
says, well, I have 800,000 other things to do, but I'll try. So Johnson goes and blah, 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 blah. And Johnson, oh, wow. Okay. All right. I see this. Wow. This is cool. I can automate things. I can get research done I can get things done faster, which means I'll have more time to do other things I need to do. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So they come back to their boss and they say, yeah, we should do some AIing, whatever that may be. And the boss says, okay, well, let's do it. And so they buy a subscription to a public AI and they start using it. And they realize it's so cool that they start putting everything in there. And I mean, everything. Hey, here's my char folder. Here's
Mhm.
everything. Here, tell me who's the best employee. Tell me who deserves a raise. But
Mhm.
they turn AI into an ERP, you know, which is everything and everything in one giant place, but it's all out there for the right person to know this and to exploit it. If I go and I get a list of the Fortune 100 companies, and I read a script and it says, tell me the marketing plans for this company for the next 12 to 18 months based on, information that you can gather as an AI, public information, insider, whatever it may be, interviews. It's going to be able to do that very well and very accurately
Mhm.
because at some point those companies dumped it into one of the, three major AIs, or four or five or 20, whatever they are now. I think eventually then what happens is somebody goes, hey, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be putting every bit of information on a company out into this public AI because this could be bad. And from a security perspective, it's probably not ideal. And people go, hey, yeah, you know what? He's right or she's right. And so they say, okay, well, we're going to have our own AI. We're going to build our own AI. Now you got to find someone that's qualified, not just a self-proclaimed expert, but someone actually that knows what they're doing, beyond a hobbyist, because yeah, I could put an Olama installation on my machine and pick a 2 billion parameter engine and blah, blah, blah. But they get it done and they never think to secure it. They just don't. And I have seen I could count on one hand the number of times I've looked at an organization and said, oh yeah, these guys have really good AI security. Because they don't. Nobody does. Because they don't even understand the technology most of the time. And the people that do don't get the budget to do what they need to do right because until they fire 20,000 people and then they're all set. It is what it is. I think the industry as a whole needs to kind of, this is going to sound bad, but I'm going to say it anyway because that's who I am. We need to
Mhm.
stop chasing the dollar. And that's
Mhm.
in a lot of fields, but definitely now, Wiz being bought for 32 point something $billion. Everybody wants to start a security company now. Hey, why not? If I can get $32 billion, okay, good luck with that. There's been one of those transactions in the history of the world, so good luck to you. But there's a lot of money out there, and a lot of companies are investing. And I've seen products that were whipped up over the weekend get $20 million in funding. And as long as you say, this is our MVP, we're actually going to go really build this if you give us the money, then great. But if you take that product to market, I wouldn't do it. Let's just put it that way. I don't think it's a wise move. And I see a ton of vibe coded projects and I see people selling, all sorts of solutions that they built with AI. And you go and you look at their background and, like, "Oh, the guy was a mortgage broker for 6 years. Now he's an AI expert." Okay. Well,
Yeah.
great. Wonderful. I'm sure security was part of his AI training. No, of course not.
Nope, not at all. He had a background in, 2 YouTube videos learning about NaN,
Yeah.
in another video talking about cloud code.
There you go.
So I certainly agree with you there.
I use a
And I
comic
agree.
browser. I'm fine.
Yeah, and I agree with the points of I think that AI is a lot of people, depend on it for their own thinking. AI can be our second brain,
Mhm.
but it's a tool.
Right.
It's not you.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's how the most elite users of AI are using it. They're just using it as a tool to propel them where they get more work done faster, not as a dependent of how do I, get more business? You know what I mean? It's for you to, you know what I mean, listen and find ways to get more business, not AI to do it. Now, with kind of the benefit of hindsight, what's one belief you would rethink if you were starting over again? Um, you know what I mean, with their company, Seron Security.
Don't do it. I know it sounds crazy, but every founder is like, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world, blah, 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 blah.
Mm,
You never hear about businesses that don't make it. This is not my first startup. This probably will be my last startup, one way or another. It's really hard. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. If you have a partner, a spouse, someone that you live with, you don't see them as much as either of you would like. If you have children, you're not going to see them as much as you'd like because you're chasing your dream, which is great. And I encourage everyone to follow your dream as best as realistic as it can be. I mean, I haven't been taking a salary in quite a long period of time. And that also causes stresses. What I would do if I were going to do it again is I would go out and basically have a product portfolio and I would go out and I would get external investors and just make my life a little bit easier. And you would have thought I would have learned this by now, but apparently I'm just not that smart. I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy the people I work with. And I think that there is, a good growth potential opportunity. Starting a company, you never hear about the failures. Nobody goes
mhm,
on LinkedIn and goes, "I crashed and burned again. I mean, every once in a while, someone will do it, which I think is great because I think it needs to be done because it's not Hollywood. It's not start up a company in 6 months. Well, I'll be driving Ferraris. It just doesn't happen. I think it's 90% of businesses, small businesses fail in the first year. And I know I've had startups that have crashed and burned big time, but I learned a lot and hopefully I don't repeat those mistakes. There's like a glamour to it that it's just, I don't know. I think it's a lot of fascination with the money and the fame. You got guys that are, they're like rock stars. They're
Yeah.
super tech rock stars and they're dating supermodels and blah, blah, blah. If that's your thing, that's your thing. That's fine. I'm happy dating my wife. Do I want $1 billion? No, because I do stupid things with it and it wouldn't really benefit anybody. I mean, I'd probably donate a lot of it because I don't need $1 billion. But if you're watching and you want to buy Travis for $1 billion, it's yours. I just want enough to pay my bills and have a little money for when I get older and can't work anymore. The people I work with tend to be the same types of people. We just don't want to have debt. We just want to be able to make a decent living and take care of our family, take care of our friends, and provide a good service and help people. So I honestly, I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but I don't know I would do it again in hindsight. I probably would have done some things differently, but you can't change the past. And I'm not going to wallow in my misery and mistakes because that would be really depressing.
Mhm.
If you go into it, make sure everybody that's tangentially involved, like your family, your friends, your neighbors. I used to go walk my dog with my neighbor. Haven't done that. And I don't even know if he still has a dog. I don't get out of the house much. So there's that. But yeah, it is. It is really, really hard. And I think it's like the unspoken secret. If you are unsuccessful, you don't talk about it. If you're successful, you brag like crazy. If you're not, then you don't, it's like a bad thing. And I don't think it is because unless you're really dumb like me and put your own money in instead of going to get money first from other people, that
Mhm.
mitigates the risk a lot and that changes the
Mhm.
equation. But, there's pros and cons. I think that people should, if you want to give it a shot, give it a shot. But my first startup was when I was in my 20s, and that was a long time ago. And I don't have the energy and I don't have I'll call it the freedom to do what I want when I want and not have regard for anybody else. And now I have a daughter and I have a wife and I have to spend time with them. And it has taken its toll. I could absolutely tell you it's been nights I don't sleep and my wife gets up and comes and knocks on my door and goes, "Come to bed. It's 3 a.m. Get some sleep." I'm like, "Yeah, just a minute. I just got to finish this." And I'm not like a workaholic either. I really believe in what I'm doing and hopefully I'll be able to sell that vision to other people.
Yeah, I think that's really real and I respect it. I feel like especially now, the internet has glamorized business as, you know what I mean? There's this perfect idea and you're gonna get rich in 10 months, which is it's not true. And then on the flip side of it, the internet has been a blessing of it's now easier to consume actual good mentorship and find good mentorship for business where you can not make the mistakes that your past predecessors have made,
Mhm.
right? It can fast track you to instead of taking a decade, it might only take 3, 4 years for you to, find some decent success. So there's 2 sides of it, but I think that, you know what I mean, even with that, business is failure after failure after failure after failure until that one time you get it right,
So all you need is
and
one.
it's really just like a grind set, right? So
Yeah.
I love that you touched on that. Now, if there was, you know what I mean, your company is called Seron. So I don't know if you ever watched Lord of the Rings or anything like that, right? There's Sauron in there.
So
If you had a match
that's Sauron
Sauron,
and
around the same name.
well, it's actually interesting because here's a funny story. I don't know if I've told you this. When I was forming my company, I was trying to think of a cool name and I said, I'll do, strategic security. And I went to see if the domain was no, iron security, no, 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 no. And I'm like stumped. And one of my friends goes to me, well, when you think of security, you think of, guarding and protecting. What's the most important thing to you? And I said, my wife. And because at the time, yeah, I did have a daughter actually, and she is also as important to me. But her middle name is the same as my wife's first name, and that's Seron. So I said, I'm going to name it Seron Security. And people are going to ask me, why did you name it that? And I'm going to say, because I want to protect the most important things to me. And that will tell them a little about me and how seriously I take this. I've probably been asked 5 times in 10 years. Nobody asks. Apparently, there's a Hebrew word, Seron, which means general. like a general in the army. And so I've had some people say, "Oh yeah, I get it." And I'm like, "No, that's not it. It's a very unusual name, but my wife and my daughter and my wife's side of the family, they passed the name down. So that's what I went with. And it's definitely unique, and I rarely see anybody else with it. So I see somebody with my logo, but you know,
You'll get those. So it's actually Saren is actually name, not the Saram. Okay, Saren. Well,
been called worse.
as I was, you know, you have a magic wand. If you had a magic wand and could wave Yumin around and make your biggest problem disappear that you would never have to deal with again, what's one of the biggest problems that you would just want to take away?
Wow. The obvious answer is my bank account, but I don't think that's realistic. I think it would be addressing the barriers that I deal with in communicating with people. Because if I can get you on the phone or I can get you for a cup of coffee or I can talk to you and have a discussion, have a conversation, I can usually understand where your head is, where you're coming from. I'm not going to walk up to somebody and go, "Hey, I want to sell you diabetic supplies," when I don't know they're diabetic, right? I know that a lot of organizations could use our solution, but I also know a lot of organizations are in long-term contracts and they're not going to change. I think there are a lot of great solutions out there. I happen to think ours is better, but I'm biased. So I wish I could really convey more of, be able to more naturally convey the benefit of what we have and how it can help an organization better. I mean, maybe whack a couple, no, just kidding. A couple of my employees drive me crazy, but I wouldn't do anything
Oh,
about that. It's all good.
that's awesome. Now, Aaron, if a guest they want to hear more from you or see what you're up to, where can they find you?
You can usually find me hiding in my basement. No, if you want to get a hold of me, if you visit Seron, Seron Security, there's a contact form if you want to reach out to me. It's Aaron, Aaron, at Seron Security. I have been known to have a presence on LinkedIn. I've been kind of quiet lately, but invariably, if you message me, I'll probably get back to you in a day or two. And I'm happy to help. I really do want to help people. If you want to demo the product, great. If you want to talk to me about cybersecurity, great. I just got to find time to do it. Both of those. I'd like to think that I'm more than willing to help anyone that wants to help themselves. If you come to me and just say, "Hey, can you give me a job?" The answer is no, because I don't know anything about you. Well, I've been a programmer. Okay, great. I still don't know anything about you. If you want to say, "Hey, this is my background. I want to get into cyber. What would you advise?" That's a completely different question. And I will give you my knowledge and happily, gladly. I can't do it, 24/7, but if I can schedule some time with people, I'm more than glad to help people. The network in security community is phenomenal. People went out of their way to spend time with me, to point me to resources, to help me understand concepts. And if you talk to people, there's some incredible people in cyber that do it. I'm not going to name names because if I do, I'll forget one person and I'll feel really bad. But there's amazing people that will spend time with you. There's a number of resources out there for learning things that are free or very low cost or pay what you can. And there's people out there that have been, life changing to me that I want to honor them, and I'm more than happy to pay it forward.
Awesome. Aaron, I think that you have a lot of great things to say. So on here on the podcast.